The evolution of the Michael Caine movie. Michael Caine, a national treasure, an Academy Award winner. He is Alfie, Alfred, Zulu. The list is endless. So many catchphrases, so many impressions.
It gets very specific. It's not quite nasal enough the way you're doing it, all right? You're not doing it the way he speaks. You're not doing it with the kind of... And you don't do the broken voice when he gets very emotional. When he gets very emotional indeed. She was only 16 years old. She was only 16. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. That's Michael Caine.
Such a long, long history in the business. Sit back and relax. The evolution of the Michael Caine movie. It's going to be wonderful. Before we blow the doors off this thing, if you are a fellow movie lover, it will make my day if you like my Facebook page or follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with my radio shows, movie specials, and my next videos. With Michael Caine, we have to go back to 1956 for his first stint in the movie business. Private Lockyer in a hill in Korea, originally called Hell in Korea. I'm currently reading his autobiography called The Elephant to Hollywood, so I thought it was fitting I did this video. Korea has always a profound effect on Michael Caine, as he joined the British Army and served in Korea during the Korean War. It was the first major feature film to portray British troops in action during the Korean War, so it was pivotal. It was based on Max Cato's novel of the same name. He entered television being a knight in the Magic Sword episode of The Adventure of Sir Lancelot the same year, whilst appearing in The Crime of the Century as well. A year later, he was a fighter in TV movie Blood Money. This introduced Michael Caine to Sean Connery, who played Harlan Mountain McClintock, an over-the-hill boxer whose corrupt manager keeps putting him back into the ring. Apparently they bonded pretty well on set. The movie also stars Doctor Who's Jacqueline Hill. It was written by the legend Rod Serling, who brought you the fantastical Twilight Zone, which I'm actually wearing the hoodie for at the moment. The Twilight Zone, amazing series. I love clearly and dearly. He popped up in How to Murder a Rich Uncle. He played Bill in Escape TV series and Dusty in Mr. Charlesworth. He was almost stereotyped as playing a soldier, playing a German soldier in Navy Long, the teleseries. The Vice, or the Sabre of London it's sometimes called, which was half-hour 1950s detectives television series about the British police. As you can tell, 1958 he was Johnny Brent, a character with a full name, which means a lot in the movie business. In Blind Spot, the movie, he was Johnny Brent, a pilot thought to be dead who knows more about the murders. He finished his appearance in BBC Sunday Night Theatre, which he had a big part in, again around the law, military officer type stuff. He was a Gestapo agent in The Two-Headed Spy, 1958, which sounds funny, The Two-Headed Spy, but it's not, it's serious. Directed by eye-patch-donning Andre de Toth, who we mentioned in our evolution of the slasher genre because he directed Vincent Price-led movie House of Wax. Blind Spot also has Donald Pleasance in it, playing a German general. He played a guard, and he was Tufty Morris, Brocklehurst, an Indian peddler in Dixon of Dock Green, a series about daily life at a London police station. See, you're getting quite a recurring theme here. Come the 60s, he was a sergeant, Wiener Max, in William Tell, a photographer, then Ted Drake in Deadline Midnight, a detective in Golden Girl, a police constable in No Wreath for the General. Yep, he was definitely typecasted, unfortunately. Lots of uncredited work, which is a shame if you go through his history. Something I know. Armchair Theatre TV series kept playing these bit parts. Ray the Raver, which made me laugh, in The Young Generation, 1961. 1962, he played Paddy Mooney in Solo for Sparrow. A group of crooks accidentally kill an elderly shop assistant while stealing the keys to the jewellery shop where she works. Directed by Gordon Fleming, who is a big name in classic Doctor Who. Second time I've mentioned Doctor Who, strange. He reprised his role as Paddy in the Edgar Wallace Mystery Theatre. Arutha Green in Drama 6167, more police stuff. He was Reggie or Johnny in First Night before he finally got his break in Zulu, 1964, as Lieutenant Gonville Bromhead. He's a little bit of trivia for you before you get into the film. He was going to play the lower-class Cockney character, Private Henry Hook, but someone else got the part until the producers asked if he could do a posh accent. And he could. By Joe, he could. Outnumbered British soldiers do battle with Zulu warriors at Rorke's Drift. This was Michael Caine's first major film role. He watched the rushes, but was so nervous that he was sick and never watched rushes again. Zulu also stars Stanley Baker. Many of the Zulus who were hired as extras for the film had never seen a motion picture prior to filming and were unsure what to expect. Hard to believe it's over 50 years old. He went Shakespeare and played Horatio the same year. He didn't think he would do well doing Shakespeare, but thoroughly enjoyed his experience. He did more stage plays, ITV Play of the Week, before another big one, The Ipcris File. Harry Palmer, 1965. In London, a counter-espionage agent deals with his own bureaucracy while investigating the kidnapping and brainwashing of British scientists. Stars alongside Michael Caine, we have Nigel Green and Sue Lloyd. On the first day of shooting, Sidney J. Fury gathered the cast and said, "This is what I think of the script." He then set it on fire. Palmer is the first action hero to wear glasses. Michael Caine is myopic in real life. Caine chose to wear glasses because he expected the film to be the first of a series, similar to the Bond movies. He feared being over-identified with the character of Harry Palmer, and so he wore the glasses so that he could remove them for other roles. This movie provided to be a major influence on the style and ambience of the popular TV series Mission Impossible. There was slight controversy with the idea of Palmer cooking. He might come across as effeminate. I think it gives him some kind of suave and sophistication, to be honest. Palmer is a Cockney rebel. We love it. The spy thriller is hot. It's real. This music gave me the feel of the Persuaders or Randall Hopkirk Deceased theme. So it's a wonderful theme. The look is quite Stanley Kubrick as well. He struck a strike with 3 memorable roles, the third being Alfie in 1966. It is the ultimate romance drama flick. I love how Alfie breaks the fourth wall and talks to you like you're one of his mates. This is what Caine intended to do to get the audience on his side. An unrepentant ladies' man gradually begins to understand the consequences of his actions and his lifestyle. This film brought many similar movies in its wake, but we won't go into that. It is an adaptation by Bill Norton of his own novel and play of the same name. The cast, we have Caine, Jane Asher, The Poseidon Adventures, Shelley Winters, Frenzy's Vivian Merchant, director Lewis Gilbert, who brought you Bond, in particular The Spy Who Loved Me, He Only Lived Twice, and Moonraker. For her few scenes with Michael Caine, Shelley Winters couldn't understand his dialogue at all due to his strong Cockney accent and had to wait until her leading man stopped moving his lips before responding with her lines. Bloody hell. It was remade in 2004 starring Jude Law. Susan Sarandon. Michael Caine respects Jude Law as an actor and his performance in the remake. The same year, 1966, he was Michael Finsbury in The Wrong Box, an unpromising medical student. It has an all-star cast: Peter Sellers, Peter Cook, Dudley Moore, John Mills, Ralph Richardson. Can you imagine the fun they had on set? In Victorian England, a fortune now depends on which of 2 brothers outlives the other, or can be made to have seemed to do so. First ever on-screen teaming of British comedy duo Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. Michael Caine would be directed again about a couple of years later by Brian Forbes in Deadfall. He played another Harry Dean in Gambit, 1966. An English cat burglar needs a Eurasian dancer's help to pull off the perfect heist.
How would you like to make $5,000?
Or even the most foolproof schemes have a way of backfiring. Cast, we have Caine. The Apartments and Terms of Endearments, Shirley MacLaine. Pink Panther's Herbert Lom. Ronald Neame directs. He directed The Poseidon Adventure. Shirley MacLaine does not speak until 29 minutes into the film. The first draft of the screenplay was written by Brian Forbes in 1960. When the story was designed as a vehicle for Cary Grant, he eventually dropped out of the project, which subsequently underwent many changes. It was eventually decided to make the girl the central character, and Shirley MacLaine was signed for the lead. After seeing the Ipcress file, she suggested Michael Caine as a leading man, which led to still more rewriting to accommodate his working-class Cockney persona. Caine reprised his role as Harry Palmer, the second in the series, Funeral in Berlin, 1966. A British agent is sent to Berlin to receive a communist defector, but the true situation turns out to be rather more complicated. Lots of twists and turns along the way. Gunter Meisner, you know, Slugworth from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, is in this too. Gunter Meisner plays Kreisman. I'll tell him you talked well, but lied badly. Great line in the movie. We have the leg scene. Tell him I'll be late. Caine is so cool in this. Directed by Bond's Guy Hamilton, Russian soldiers on the east side of the Berlin Wall purposely disrupted filming by using mirrors to reflect sunlight into the cameras. The scene where Harry Palmer walks to Checkpoint Charlie for the first time had to be filmed from a long distance for that reason. Hurry Sundown, 1967, big cast with Caine, Jane Fonda, Faye Dunaway, John Philip Law and Rocky's Burgess Meredith. Burgess also features a lot in The Twilight Zone. Famous film critic Roger Ebert said Sundown is a frustrating case. Not good, but not particularly bad. With the smokescreen of controversy surrounding it and obscuring its real faults. The trouble with the film is not that it's racist and tasteless, but that it's naive and dull. Director Otto Preminger brought you Anatomy of a Murder and Exodus. He directed this one. Michael plays Henry Warren, a bigoted, draft-dodging owner of a northern canning plant. Footage from this film of a young Michael Caine was later used in the film Austin Powers in Goldmember 2002. He was a handsome stranger before Billion Dollar Brain 1967, third in the series of Harry Palmer. I keep saying Harry Palmer like I'm Scottish. Harry Palmer. Harry Palmer, a former British spy, stumbles into a plot to overthrow communism with the help of a supercomputer. But who is working for whom? Guy Dolman is reoccurring cast member in these films. 12 Angry Men's Ed Begley is in it. He's just got that face you just hate. Wonderful actor. Director Ken Russell did Billion Dollar Brain. Also did The Lair of the White Worm. And Tommy, who we all should know was the film based around The Who's album of the same name. Now stop singing Pinball Wizard and let's get back to Michael Caine. Opening titles are very Bondish. The scenes are full of action. It's the first time I've ever had a Russian spy on room service. It's another great line from Caine. Caine performed most of his own stunts as well, and during the final ice flow scene he almost slipped and fell into freezing water. A year later, he was Henry Stewart Clark in Deadfall. Another cat burglar, Brian Forbes directs again. Henry tries to steal diamonds from the chateau of millionaire Solanus. However, Henry's partners in crime aren't the most emotionally stable people. Rising Damp's Leonard Rossiter also stars in it. Leonard also did 2001 A Space Odyssey and Pink Panther Strikes Again. John Barry's The Composer scenes is very memorable. The Magus. Caine plays Nicholas Earth, a teacher on a Greek island, becomes involved in bizarre mind games with the island's magician and a beautiful young woman. Lawrence of Arabia's Anthony Quinn stars in Magus. The book of the same name by John Fowles has been said that it changed John Lennon's life. Michael lists this, along with The Swarm and Ashanti, as one of the worst films he's ever made. This is mainly down to the fact that no one, least of all the audience, knew what it was about. Play Dirty, 1969. British war film with Caine as Captain Douglas. Andre de Toth's last film. From the Ipcress Files, Zulus, Nigel Green makes an appearance. Moby Dick's Harry Andrews too. Douglas is a British petroleum employee, seconded to the Royal Engineers to oversee incoming fuel supplies for the British 8th Army. During the Desert War in North Africa, a group of British commandos disguised in Italian soldiers must travel behind enemy lines and destroy a vital Nazi oil depot. He went back into TV with TV movie Male of the Species, ITV's Sunday Night Theatre, before another hard hitter came about in the form of The Italian Job, 1969. You were only supposed to blow the bloody doors off, which remains the best line in movies, voted in 2003 by the UK as the best. We have that incredible literal cliffhanger ending. People have loved this film so much. There's a debate on whether giving the weight of the gold if they would survive. It made Mini Coopers cool before Mr. Bean got to them in the 1990s. The car scenes are wonderful. Ultimate comic caper movie about a plan to steal a gold shipment from the streets of Turin by creating a traffic jam. Cast the legend Michael Caine as Charlie Crocker. Benny Hill, you gotta love Benny Hill. Brief encounters Noel Coward. Peter Collinson directs Italian Job. He also did The Earthling, which reminds me of my favourite documentary, Earthlings, which changed my life, and it might change yours as well. Okay. Viewer discretion is advised for this next point. This is a movie primarily about cars and driving, of course. Michael Caine, the star, could not drive at the time the movie was made. And in fact, he is never seen driving a car. The only time the Crocker is assumed to be driving is the cut between when he picks up his Aston Martin at the garage, and in the next shot we see it arrive outside the hotel. But Michael Caine gets out of a stationary Aston Martin after a further cut. Throughout the drive to Turin and the entire heist, Crocker is always a passenger. Michael Caine is one of the singing voices in the closing theme song, Get a Bloomin' Move On. So many memorable scenes. The opening is fantastic. We have Quincy Jones, who does a lot of the soundtrack. It's just an excellent movie. He went back to war. I don't know how he does it. Squadron leader Canfield in Battle of Britain, his last movie of the 1960s, before the 70s came along. Too Late the Hero, 1970. Caine is Tosh, a cynical cockney who is also the squad's medic. Medic! Cliff Robertson is Sam. The great Henry Fonda is in this one with Harry Andrews again. During World War II, Allied Forces interpreter Sam Lawson is called on by his superior for a dangerous mission. Up to this point, Lawson has managed to completely avoid combat, but now he must team up with some equally reluctant British soldiers and travel into perilous jungle territory to destroy a Japanese communications base. Dirty Dozen and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane's director Robert Aldrich made this one. While filming in the jungles in the Philippines, Michael Caine seemed to have an unerring sense of direction and always managed to find his way about. However, filming in the jungles created on the studio backlot in Hollywood, they were delayed on first day, as Caine had managed to get himself lost. In his autobiography, Michael Caine said the Philippines was the worst location shoot he had ever experienced in his career. He played the captain in James Clavell's The Last Valley. James Clavell was a superb writer. He wrote The Great Escape, To Sir with Love, Shogun, and The Fly. Michael was Jack Carter in Get Carter the same year, 1971. Everyone will picture Caine holding a shotgun, his nice blue suit, his watch, Britt Eklund is Anna. Again, he's just a badass. When his brother dies under mysterious circumstances in a car accident, London gangster Jack Carter travels to Newcastle to investigate. Flash Gordon's Mike Hodges directs. Mike Hodges described Michael Caine as a complete dream to work with. Caine only lost his temper once on set, during the very tense and emotional day filming in Glenda's flat, when the focus puller ruined his first take. Caine apologised immediately. Caine, as we know, is an awesome man. Not long after the film was released, Michael Caine was in the West End and came across the gangster whose life the film was based upon. He was highly critical of the film, saying there's no gangster in the world like Jack Carter. He didn't have a wife, children, or responsibilities of any kind. Rather than start an incident, Caine agreed with everything he said, and as would I. Roy Budd did the impressive music. He also did the next one in Kidnapped. Caine was Alan Breck, along with Donald Pleasance again. Z & Co. X, Y and Z. The film starred Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Caine as a middle-aged bickering couple whose marriage is on its last legs, and Susanna York as the woman who comes between them. He starred in a comedy thriller. Mike Hodges worked with Michael again in this one. Caine is Mickey King, a seedy writer of sleazy pulp novels, is recruited by a quirky, reclusive ex-actor to help him write his biography at his house in Malta. Michael teamed up with Laurence Olivier in Sleuth, 1972, You may remember the front cover of them both holding magnifying glasses. A man who loves games and theatre invites his wife's lover to meet him, setting up a battle of wits with potentially deadly results. He starred alongside Jude Law in Sleuth, the remake 2007. The original was adapted from Anthony Shaffer's Tony Award-winning play of the same name. He was a Major John Tarrant in The Black Windmill. A British agent's son is kidnapped and held for ransom. Don Siegel, who made Dirty Harry, Escape from Alcatraz, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, did Black Windmill. The Destructors, 1974, named The Marseille Contract. Caine is the assassin. He worked with Anthony Quinn again, joined by James Mason. Another James Bond director, Robert Parrish, did The Destructors. Black anti-apartheid activist and British engineer are forced to run from South African secret police. Sidney Poitier and Michael Caine together in the Wilby Conspiracy. They got on like a house on fire and even tried going golfing together, but Caine was terrible at golf, as I am as well. Rutger Hauer makes appearance too. Caine was Lewis in The Romantic Englishwoman, 1975, before he played Peachy in The Man Who Would Be King, set 1885. Two British soldiers in India decide to resign from the army and set themselves up as deities in Kafiristan, a land where no white man has set foot since Alexander. Film adapted from the Rudyard Kipling novella of the same title. Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Christopher Plummer, Shakira Caine, his wife, all in The Man Who Would Be King, directed by John Huston, an eccentric rebel of epic proportions. My type of guy. He worked closely, very closely with Humphrey Bogart, who was Michael Caine's idol. You gotta love our Humphrey. When he appeared on the Inside the Actors Studio, 1994, and was asked about working with John Huston, Michael Caine recalled that a few weeks into shooting, both he and Sean Connery were worried and concerned the lack of direction and feedback they were getting from Huston. Caine approached Huston and asked if anything was wrong, if he was happy with their performances. Huston replied, "You're getting paid a lot of money to do this, Michael. I think you should do it by yourself." Weird. Caine starred in another comedy next, Peeper, 1976. Leslie C. Tucker, a bungling private investigator he was. He was a cultured, wealthy and charming bank robber called Adam Worth in Harry and Walter Go to New York. It's an all-star cast. He played the financial wizard Doc Fletcher in Silver Bears. Caine was another lieutenant in A Bridge Too Far with Sean Connery, Gene Hackman, Robert Redford, Anthony Hopkins and James Caan. Richard Attenborough actually directed it. He was a scientist named Dr. Bradford Crane, the only survivor in the disaster movie The Swarm. As we know, Caine really didn't like this picture. This was one of Caine's notorious paycheck pictures. Caine was in California Suite as the husband, Sidney Cochran, a once closeted antique dealer who has become increasingly indiscreet about his sexual preferences. This was another comedy, which he enjoyed doing, as we know. Big A-list cast: Maggie Smith, Jane Fonda, Walter Matthau, Richard Pryor, now shamed actor Bill Cosby. Footloose's Herbert Ross directs, and it follows the misadventures of 4 groups of guests at the Beverly Hills Hotel. He appeared as a doctor again, David Linderby in Ashanti. Richard Fleischer directed Ashanti. He did Soylent Green. Loved Soylent Green so much. He was a captain, Mike Turner in Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Those dreaded sequels that Michael Caine got himself wrapped up in. Oh, God. 1980s arrived. Blair Maynard is a British-born American journalist who was once in the Navy. Decides to investigate the mystery of why so many boats disappear in the Bermuda Triangle of the Caribbean. The Candidate and Bad News Bears Michael Ritchie directed The Island, starring Michael Caine. The Bermuda Triangle is such an interesting topic of discussion, you can make a whole video just about that. He was a doctor again, but bear with me. This was one of the best portrayals. This one, Dr. Robert Elliott, a cross-dressing killer. A mysterious blonde woman kills one of her psychiatrist's patients and then goes after the high-class call girl who witnessed the murder. Meticulous director Brian De Palma, who you should know for Scarface, Carrie, Untouchables, Carlito's Way. Such a fabulous director. Angie Dickinson plays Kate Miller. Nancy Allen is Liz. The camera work in this, the cinematography is astounding. There are obvious nods and references to the phenomenal director Alfred Hitchcock in this one and in his many films that Hitchcock done. We have done a video about our Hitchcock called The Evolution of the Hitchcock Movie, where we go through his whole films. Check it out if you have the time. It'll make my day. I'll always remember the elevator death in Dress to Kill. Simply brilliant. Next, he was John Lansdale, a comic book artist who loses his right hand in a car accident. The hand was not found at the scene of the accident, but it soon returns by itself to follow John around and murder those who anger him. Michael Caine said in a TV interview that the only reason he did this film was to earn enough to put down a payment on a new garage he was having built. This is my only bugbear with Michael Caine. Do the stuff you love. Not for the money. He became good friends with director Oliver Stone. Stone gave you Platoon and Natural Born Killers, so he's got a lot of film cred. Caine played a captain, John Colby. Bear with me again. This time we got him playing football, soccer if you're American, alongside Pele, Sylvester Stallone, Bobby Moore. In Victory, 1981. As Allied prisoners of war prepare for a soccer game against the German national team to be played in Nazi-occupied Paris, the French resistance and British officers are making plans for the team's escape. John Huston was back directing. Upon theatrical release, this movie was described as a cross between The Great Escape and The Longest Yard, and alternatively, also a cross between The Great Escape and Rocky. He played famed playwright in Death Trap, 1982, alongside Superman, Christopher Reeves. Henry Jones and Diane Cannon are in Death Trap 2. It's a great plot. A playwright puts murder in his plan to take credit for the student's script. Everyone remembers Michael Caine, Sidney, and Christopher Reeves' Clifford kissing scene, one of the most famous scenes in the entire film. According to separate interviews with Michael and Christopher Reeve, they had hesitations regarding the filming of the infamous kissing scene. Once they decided to go through with it, they both consumed large amounts of alcohol in order to keep themselves calm and drunk enough that they'd do anything anyone asked them to. Apparently the gay kiss wasn't in the play of the same name either. Director 12 Angry Men's Sidney Lumet. The Jigsaw Man, 1983. Caine is Sir Philip Kimberley. The former head of the British Secret Service who defected to Russia is given plastic surgery and sent back to Britain by the KGB to retrieve some vital documents. With the documents in hand, he instead plays MI6 and the KGB off against each other. People always remember the brilliant front cover of the jigsaw pieces of the person. Alongside Caine, we had Laurence Olivier and Robert Powell. 60s Bond, Terence Young directs. It's all about the espionage, the thrills, and what you expect. Charles Gray's even in it too. The next one was a massive role for Michael in 1983, Educating Rita. Michael said that he believes this is the best performance in any movie he's done. Julie Walters is in it, one of her earlier works. She also did the stage play too. We talked about her a lot with my Billy Elliot special I'd just done recently. The film follows the relationship between a 26-year-old Liverpudlian working-class hairdresser and Frank, a middle-aged university lecturer, during the course of a year. The drunken scenes in this one are perfect. Michael Caine even did acting lessons for students where he taught them how to come across as convincingly drunk. These phenomenal lessons are available on YouTube to watch. I enjoyed watching them too. So many interesting stuff about acting. Alfie's Lewis Gilbert directed Educating Rita. When Frank Bryant, Michael Caine, is getting the hidden liquor bottle from his bookshelf, he gets it from behind a book titled The Lost Weekend, a clear reference to the film of the same name. That movie features major story elements relating to alcoholism as well. The story is uplifting, it's great to watch. Michael Caine would be an alcoholic again in The Honorary Consul, also known as Beyond the Limit, and it's a 1983 British-Mexican drama with Richard Gere, Bob Hoskins, Michael Caine. Michael Caine, he plays Charlie Fortnum, a representative in Latin America who is trying to keep a revolution from occurring. Blame It on Rio, Blame It on Rio, 1984. Best friends and their daughter's holiday in Rio, only for one to fall for the other's daughter. Michael is Matthew Hollis, the father whose the young girl falls for. Michelle Johnston, Demi Moore, and Big Daddy's Joseph Bologna star. Now we're talking. Water, 1985. He starred with Beatles' very own George Harrison and Ringo. The one and only Billy Connolly. Billy Connolly. Gotta love Billy. Leonard Ross is there again. Eric Clapton. The producers Dick Shawn. A British diplomat, Caine, goes to a West Indian island nation, and finds his idyllic existence thrown into chaos when a large American drilling company finds a huge source of natural mineral water there. This was done by the producers of Life of Brian and Time Bandits. He was the son of a German general in Holocaust Covenant. He plays the unfaithful husband in Hannah and Her Sisters. He was another Elliot James, egotistical Lothario in comedy Sweet Liberty. He was Denny Mortwell, a driver and bodyguard for a high-priced prostitute in Mona Lisa, with Bob Hoskins and Robbie Coltrane. Caine tagged up with Sigourney Weaver for Half Moon Street, playing Lord Bulbeck. Another Frank Jones in The Whistleblower with Nigel Havers, Felicity Dean, and Frenzy's Barry Foster. Frank Jones is a retired British naval officer and Korean War veteran. You see why he took the part. He was now a businessman. He was MI5 officer John Preston in The Fourth Protocol, 1987. He teamed up with Pierce Brosnan. Now, what do we know about Pierce Brosnan? No, we can't mention that. He's Bond. We'll say Miss Doubtfire. And that will lead us on to another video I've made entitled The Evolution of the Robin Williams Movie. So if you are a fan of Robin Williams, do check out that video. It's available on my channel. Now, we're going to have to mention viewers' discretion again. Jaws. Not that one. Not our Steve's. Nope, not Steve's. Jaws 4. The Revenge. The less said about that, the better. Speaking of Miss Doubtfire, though, Sally Field joins Michael Caine and Stephen Guttenberg, where they were in Surrender. As soon as I saw the title, I went straight to YouTube and listened to Cheap Trick's Surrender, which made me happy. It's a classic rock track. A wealthy writer who has had terrible experiences with money-hungry girlfriends and ex-wives pretends to be a broke, washed-up novelist to see if the women he loves wants him for himself or just for his money. Clever, but none of these recent movies came close to the fame he got with Jack the Ripper, the TV series. Inspector Frederick Aberline, a Scotland Yard inspector who leads a manhunt high and low for a surgical slayer of prostitutes in Victorian London. He kept going on this similar path, popping up as Sherlock Holmes in Without a Clue, 1988. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I have to mention, those types of stuff. 1988, his last picture of the 80s was another big one, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, as charming British conman Lawrence Jameson. Stars alongside Steve Martin, he was Freddie Benson. Two con men try to settle their rivalry by betting on who can swindle a young American heiress out of $50,000 first. Everyone will remember the leg whip scene. Simply hilarious. A lot of people talk about Ruprecht, Steve Martin, and how funny those scenes are too. Frank Oz directs, who's a big name in Star Wars and the Muppets. 1990s kicked us off with a shock to the system. Caine was Graham Marshall. He was a guardian angel-like figure named Mike in Mr. Destiny. He appears at various times as the bartender, a cab driver, and so on and so on. Starred with Jim Belushi and Terminator's Linda Hamilton. Bullseye, 1990. Comedy film starring Michael Caine and Roger Moore. It was directed by Michael Winner. Noises Off. He played Harry. Always Harry. He's always Harry, isn't he? This time in Blue Ice before a festive classic, The Muppets Christmas Carol, as Scrooge. 1992, Disney creation. It was in the list of my top 10 non-animated Disney films. I sang and spoke the lyrics to "Oh, there goes Mr. Humbug, there goes Mr. Grimm. If he gave a prize for being mean, the winner would be him." Stars the Muppets. You gotta love the Muppets. Michael Caine considers the role of Scrooge to be one of his most memorable to him. Kermit the Frog. It's not easy being green. Stated the most important piece of acting advice ever given to him by Caine on set of this film was, his advice was, never blink. The one and only Brian Henson, who is the first name we think about whenever we picture the Muppets. He was another Michael Jennings, the ruthless CEO with Steven Seagal on Deadly Ground, 1994. Bit of a change from the Muppets. He was Joseph Stalin. Harry Palmer in Bullet to Beijing, At Midnight in St. Petersburg before Blood and Wine as Vic in 1996. Big film because it's the first time he worked with legend Jack Nicholson. He was Captain Nemo. No, not that Nemo you may be thinking of. Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a TV miniseries. He was even a South African politician. Then Haskell, a hardened gangster assigned to a job by his boss, Landon Higgins, to steal sheets of watermarked paper to print fake money in Shadowrun. He was actually in a musical. Yep, he was in a musical. Little Voices as Ray Say. Ray freaking Say. Agent of the Stars, King of Cabaret, Manager of Miracles. He has that slight look of Elvis to him. Everyone knows him. He's a lovable twat. Such a big brick cast. Jane Horrocks, Ewan McGregor, Brenda Blethyn, Jim Broadbent, before Max Gale in It All Came True. He was in The Cider House Rules, 1999. Kindly, avuncular, Dr. Wilbur Larch. Avuncular meaning friendly towards a younger or less experienced person. He was in The Debtors in 1999, before the millennium. Come millennia, he was Dr. Roya Collard, an alienist. I honestly thought he meant studying aliens, but it's a term for psychiatry. Movie called Quills. Philip Kaufman, known for The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, did this one. Film also has Kate Winslet. You gotta love Kate Winslet. The same year he was Shiner, and he has this look, this image of Get Carter in Shiner, holding a gun. Not a shotgun, but a gun nevertheless. The past catches up with a ruthlessly ambitious boxing promoter, Shiner. Martin Landau, Andy Serkis also star in this boxing movie. Speaking of Get Carter, he was a loan shark, Cliff Brumby in Get Carter 2000. Sylvester Stallone taking the lead role instead. Completely forgot he was in this one. Miss Congeniality as beauty pageant coach Victor Melling, whose reputation was ruined after his last contestant criticised his methods. He teaches the tomboyish Gracie how to dress, walk, and act like a contestant. He was with Ray Winston, Bob Hoskins, and Helen Mirren in Last Orders 2001, before one of my cherished performances in Austin Powers' Goldmember 2002. Nigel Powers, Austin Powers' dad. He's a ladies' man, he's a legend, he has great scenes with Mike Myers. There is that English scenes before that we have the, I took a Viagra, got stuck in my throat, I've had a stiff neck for hours, I thank you. They speak in Cockney rhyming slang, it's so funny. The one-liner delivered to the camera by Mike Myers and Michael Caine, the I thank you, was the catchphrase of English comedian Arthur Askey. I love Goldmember, it's a great cast with Mike Myers, you know. Mike Myers, Caine, Beyonce, Vern Troyer, Seth Green and Robert Wagner. Upon learning that his father has been kidnapped, Austin Powers must travel to 1975 and defeat the aptly named villain Goldmember, who is working with Dr. Evil. Mike Myers has said that his glasses in all three films are meant to look like those worn by Michael Caine in The Ipcress File, 1965. See, it's all relative, it's all connecting up. So Michael Caine took the original glasses model to set and wore them as Nigel Powers. Apparently up until now, by now I mean 2002, Caine had 100 films under his belt. I don't believe that. The Quiet American the same year. He is Thomas Fowler, who narrates the story. He's involved in the war only as a reporter, an unengaged observer. Apart from one crucial event, at least, he's not a soldier, he's a reporter. The film is reimagining of the 1958 classic. At age 68, Michael Caine was felt to be too old for his character, but Caine's performance still led him to receive an Oscar nomination, an Oscar nod. He ventured in the TV series documentary Freedom, A History of Us, playing many a character. Two Michaels appeared in Quicksand, 2003, Michael Caine and Keaton. Caine is a washed-up action star, Jack Mellows. The film, strange enough, is set around movies, assassinations and kidnapping, all that sort of stuff. So if you like that, you'll enjoy this movie. Speaking of movies, actors, Anthony O'Malley in The Actors, 2003. He was Garth in Secondhand Lions, back with Robert Duvall. The Statement, the same year. Pierre Brassard, a French Nazi collaborator, orders 7 Jews executed during World War II. He has been in many roles associated with Nazis in Germany and war and all sorts like that. Around the Bend as Henry, before he went into the comic book universe with Alfred in Batman Begins. Still the best portrayal of Alfred I have seen, I reckon. He appeared in the whole trilogy, Batman Begins, Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. He was like a father to Bruce Wayne, full of knowledge, wisdom and loyalty. Since Alfred's sense of duty and loyalty towards Bruce Wayne reminded him of the comrades that exist in the military, Sir Michael Caine based his character's voice on that of a colonel he knew when he was in the army as an 18-year-old. The film cast includes Oscar winners Christian Bale, Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman. I'm Morgan Freeman. Michael Caine signed on to play Alfred for the chance to work with the clever director Christopher Nolan. He has now appeared in every Nolan film since. He was an intrusive father, Nigel Bigelow, in Bewitched 2005, film adapted from the hit TV series of the same name, starring Dick York and Elizabeth Montgomery. Although the movie was a flop, it does star Will Ferrell, Nicole Kidman, Shirley MacLaine and Steve Carell alongside Michael Caine. He was Robert Spritzel in The Weatherman 2005, which was blown out of the water by his next picture, Children of Men. He was Theo's aging friend, Jasper Palmer. See, Palmer, Harry Palmer. Jasper Palmer, a former political cartoonist turned pot dealer. Caine based his performance on John Lennon. Yeah, okay. The first time in his long career that Michael Caine portrayed a character who not only passed gas, but also smoked cannabis. In 2027, in a chaotic world in which women have become somehow infertile, a former activist agrees to help transport a miraculously pregnant woman to a sanctuary at sea. So much film theory around this movie, you could go over it with a fine-tooth comb. There is that expertly done long shot in the car. A lot of people remember. There are a number of long takes, but the best one is the car scene where, spoiler, Julian is shot in the head. It's such an iconic piece of filming by Harry Potter's own Alfonso Cuarón. Big heavy cast. You have Clive Owen, Julianne Moore, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Pam Ferris, along with Sir Michael Caine. Watch this movie. He was in another great picture, The Prestige, 2006, as John Cutter, the stage engineer who works with Angier and Borden. Nolan said that even though it felt like the character of Cutter was written for Caine, it was not. Nolan noted that the character was written before I'd even met Caine. Caine describes Cutter as a teacher, a father and a guide to Angier. Caine altered his voice and posture for this role. Nolan later said that Michael Caine's character really becomes something of the heart of the film. He was a wonderful warmth and emotion to him that draws you into the story and allows you to have a point of view on these characters without judging them too harshly. Another heavy cast in this one, geez, just look at it. Including David Bowie, may I add. 2 stage magicians engage in competitive one-upmanship in an attempt to create the ultimate stage illusion. Caine played the janitor, Mr. Hobbs, in Flawless 2007, before donning the suit to be Alfred again in one of the best modern films ever made, The Dark Knight. I read that Michael Caine had lines in a scene with Heath Ledger when he burst into the party. "What a night's entertainment!" but he was so stunned by the performance of Ledger, he couldn't say them or forgot to say them. Caine was an elderly ex-magician in the early stages of dementia who has recently entered a retirement home in Is Anybody There, 2008. It's uplifting, it's sad, it's heartwarming film. There's a sneaky picture of young Michael Caine as well in it, which is perfect for this video because he's just gone through his whole life. Another personal modern favourite of mine, the very, very different to Is Anybody There, is Harry Brown, 2009. An elderly ex-serviceman and a widower looks to avenge his best friend's murder by doling out his own form of justice. Michael Caine is with Plan B, the musician and actor, Emily Mortimer and David Bradley. It's the director's debut film as well, so it's very important. Michael Caine saw a lot of himself in the character of Harry Brown. Examples being that they're both combat veterans. Harry is a Marine who served in Northern Ireland. Caine has served in the British Army during the Korean War, as we know. And Caine lived in the same area that Brown does. It was things like these that drew him to the film. He was in a mind-bending movie by Nolan called Inception as Professor Stephen Miles, rich with cast, with theory and all-round awesomeness. A thief who steals corporate secrets through use of dream-sharing technology is given the inverse task of planting an idea into the mind of a CEO. It still gives me goosebumps. Even the trailer gives me goosebumps. He dipped into the world of animation with 2 movies back-to-back, Finn in Cars 2 and Lord Redbrick in Romeo and Juliet 2011, Alexander in Journey 2 and Alfred for the last time in The Dark Knight Rises. A confusing but enjoyable movie. Insurance magnate Arthur Tressler in Magic Movie Now You See Me 2013. Next was Mr. Morgan's Last Love, or just simply Last Love. The film centres around a retired widowed professor, Michael Caine, living in Paris, who develops a special relationship with a young French woman. He was Dr. Benjamin Salt, another doc, in Stonehurst's Asylum 2014, before another Nolan blockbuster, Interstellar, as Professor Brand. A lot of people remember his last scene on his deathbed. Literally everyone is in Interstellar. Check just everyone you can possibly think of. You can make a video just on the people in this film. A team of explorers travel through a wormhole in space in an attempt to ensure humanity's survival. The Kingsman, The Secret Service 2014. I completely forgot he was in this movie. I am silly, aren't I? I think it's because it features so heavily on Colin Firth, Harry Hart, and Eggsy. I completely forgot. A spy organisation recruits an unrefined but promising street kid into the agency's ultra-competitive training programme, just as a global threat emerges from a twisted tech genius. Caine is Kingsman's leader, Arthur, the character of Harry Hart, Colin Firth. He wears spectacles like that of Harry Palmer, who was played in the movies by Caine. X-Men's Matthew Vaughn directed Kingsman. He played Fred Ballinger in Youth 2015, Dolan 36th in The Last Witch Hunter 2015. Most recently, he reprised his role as Arthur Tressler in Now You See Me 2. It got a sequel because a lot of people enjoyed the first one. He is currently in production with 3 films in 2017, 4 Kids and It, Going in Style, and a comedy foreign film. Now, he was typecasted as a soldier early on, military person, and he still is kind of in some way. He's pretty much always the badass in every film. Whether you're young or old, he will always play the badass. He is sometimes a man whose relationship is on the rocks, but he always will be a national treasure to us Brits. Thank you so much, Michael Caine, for all your work. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to follow me on Twitter or like my Facebook page to keep up to date with my future videos and my movie specials on my radio show. All the information should be below this video, so don't forget to check out the series on my playlist as well if you are interested in more of my videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bless you. Thank you.